Hey, welcome back to quarantine class, week of April 20th. All right, so for English students 1 through 3, you are going to be working on stories that involve symbolism. So as a quick review of symbolism, you know what symbolism is. It's when there's an object in the story that represents something more meaningful, kind of like a metaphor. It has a double meaning. So it could have something to do with one of the characters. It could represent emotions of characters. It could have a thematic meaning. It could have something to do with an event or story. So for example, you're reading a story, and in the story the character likes to watercolor and likes to paint. Well, maybe the watercoloring painting has a double meaning. Maybe it is symbolic for the way that the author feels, or the protagonist in the story feels. So you're going to read a piece, and I'm going to ask you, what is symbolic about this, or what is the symbolism behind that? And so you'll have to explain. So when you answer anything for me, I send you questions or whatever. My favorite way to get your answers is either through a Word doc, which I know a lot of you don't have Word, or a Google Doc. Google Docs are great. You can send me a link to your Google Docs. Just make sure that you invite me so that I can read it, and that you also give me editing rights, please, so that I can make remarks and I can just give you your grade right there on the paper. If you can't do either of those, that's fine. Just hit reply to the email and then write out your full name and what you've read, the name of the story you read, and then you can just put the number of the question. You don't have to write the question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just give me your answers. If you have to write them out on a piece of paper and send me a picture, that works too. Whatever you have to do. These are all due on Friday. And by the way, I'm giving actual grades. So please make sure you give me your best work. Okay, so for English 1, you're going to be reading a story called The Scarlet Ibis by James Hurst. And it's basically about 2 sibling boys, and the scarlet ibis is a red bird. So what is the connection between the red bird and one of the characters, or whatever, something's happening in the story? That'll be one of your questions. All right, and for English 2, you're going to be reading another Maya Angelou poem called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Okay, so like, oh captain, my captain, there was no captain and there was no ship. Well, in this poem, there's no birds. It's all a metaphor. It has a deeper meaning. There are birds, and there are birds who are singing, and there are birds in cages, and that's what Maya Angelou is talking about, but it's all symbolic. What does it mean? And you'll answer the questions and send them back to me. You'll know what I mean. If you have any problems, of course, you can call me. All right, so English 3, I've got to give you a little background. You're going to be reading a really cool short story called The Story of an Hour. A woman gets 1 hour to think about something really profound, and she comes to an amazing realization. So it's by Kate Chopin, and what you have to know about this story is that it was set in Victorian England times. If you were fortunate enough to be in my class during when we were reading the yellow wallpaper, similar to that. Okay, so it was a very male-dominated society at the end of the 1800s, all the way to early 1900s was the Victorian era of America. And Kate Chopin lived in that time. In fact, she was married by 20, had 6 kids by the time she was 26, and she was widowed by the time she was 32, and started writing. And she realized that she was free to do what she wanted. The thing you have to understand about the protagonist is that she lives in a time where it was not okay for women to express opinions about politics, money, business. Anything outside the home was really none of the woman's business. She was expected to be submissive and obedient to her husband, and one of her primary functions in life was to please her husband and to raise and bear children. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those things, raising and bearing children and pleasing your husband, but it was a very, very different dynamic at that time. We didn't even get the right to vote as women until 1920, and birth control didn't really become popular and commonly available to women until the 1960s. So you had as many children as what came out of your body and what survived. So women were judged based on their behavior to be submissive to their husbands, and they basically had no thoughts or opinions of their own except for between themselves. And so it was a very oppressive, male-dominated society. Knowing that, the story will make more sense to you, and the significance of the symbolism will make more sense. So that's English 1 through 3, your stories for the week. And of course, we have to have a word of the week. So our word of the week is in a language I love. It's in Yiddish. This is the word of the week, kibbutz. Now, it's in the English dictionary, and people can use it in English, but its origin is from Yiddish, which is a language that's pretty much only spoken in the older generations of the Jewish faith. Because, I don't know, it's just part of, they spoke Hebrew, they spoke Yiddish, and it was, a lot of fun words come from there. When I was a kid growing up in New Jersey, I learned this word, and I used it often. And I used words like schlep. So if you schlepped into the kitchen, you dragged yourself. If somebody was a real jerk and you wanted to insult him, you might call him a male body part, a putz, okay, or schmuck, same thing, not a nice thing to say. And also, you might say something like capiche. Capiche? Do you understand me? Maybe you've heard these words. This one's a little bit different, kibitz. Maybe you haven't heard this one. This is when somebody's telling you what to do right in the middle of you doing something. It's really annoying. Don't do this. But my dad and I used to play backgammon, and we would be playing a game together, and my brother would come in and he'd tell my dad what move to make next or whatever, and he'd say, stop kibitzing. Or maybe I was driving and somebody told me from the back seat what was the best way to get there. That's kibitzing. Stop telling me what to do. We're right in the middle of what I'm doing. It's like unsolicited coaching. It's really annoying. Don't do it. Okay, use kibitz in a sentence. Talk to your parents next time they kibitz to you. And say, hey, don't kibitz. It's not cool. All right, talking about symbolism, I've got an extra little challenge for you guys. If you have not seen this movie, The Sixth Sense, starring Bruce Willis and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, it's filmed in 1999 and it's set in Philadelphia. It is about a man who is played by Bruce Willis, and he is a child psychiatrist trying to help children. He fails one of them. The kid grows up and shoots him. And then he spends the rest of the film trying to help another young child with the same malady, the same problem. Now, what's really cool about this film is M. Night Shyamalan is amazing. He's a brilliant master at symbolism. So I'm going to give you a little spoiler. First of all, it's a psychological thriller. You'll have no idea what's going on until the very end of the film. And if you can figure it out, I'll really be impressed, because I had no clue. It's a real frying pan to the face at the end. But basically, M. Night Shyamalan, he specifically put red objects in very prominent places within the film. So he might have had a red door where nothing else was really very red. You might see a character walk into the room wearing a red outfit or a red sweater. And I mean bright red, like really, really red. And there might be other red things in the room, but something's obviously very in-your-face red. And I didn't even know he did that until I saw an interview with him after I watched The Sixth Sense. So I'm giving you a little spoiler. As you watch the film, see if you can figure out what's going on. Just let the story unfold. And if you see a red object, see if you can figure out why it's there, because it definitely means that something's going on that you don't know about. All right, enjoy your reading for the week. Use the word kibitz. And I look forward to, and if you watch the movie, shoot me an email. Tell me what you think. Okay, did you figure it out? I don't know. So send me your answers by Friday at midnight. I really love it when you send me your answers early, because that means I get to grade them and be done with it, and I don't have to grade things over the weekend. So stay safe and enjoy your reading.